No doubt as he then heads, desperately trying to pick up that slipstream. The invisible 7/10 of a second, if you can get it absolutely right. Again, George comfortably there within track limits and the short run to the line.
Latifi goes 13th, Russell 11th. So Williams not putting clear daylight between themselves and the bottom five, but they've pushed Ocon and Vettel into that relegation zone, and you'll see them out on track, Vettel and Ocon, in a few moments' time, because the field are now making their way out of the pit lane. The Mercedes pair were on a set of used tyres for these laps, but now everyone is joining in the melee out on track, and Latifi, I dare say, Martin, needs a bit more pace to try and stay out of that bottom five.
Yeah, and Aston Martin were pretty quick, weren't they? Free practice one, so they haven't shown their full potential. Norris lost that time, so he's back down to 9th. The 1:21.1 was actually deleted, track limits in the final corner.
This is the incident that the stewards are noting. We're on board with Robert Kubica, who picked up his first podium in Formula One at this very track many years ago now, back in 2006 when he finished third, racing back in those days with BMW Sauber. So Sebastian Vettel has got himself very close to George Russell.
Russell on an in-lap, presumably, having now turned a hot lap, or certainly on a battery charge lap. Yeah, they're all over the show. They're all trying to achieve different things. But the only people really, as Bottas.
Copy, Mick needs to get a move on.
Understood, I'll pass it on.
Well, Mick's been held up by others in front of him, I think. We've got a minute to go, and the queue is forming into the parabolica, as you can see on your screen with all those slow-moving dots, and as you can see on your screen with all these cars, there is a minute to go of Q1, and they will all want to get to the line before the checkered flag. It might be a bit touch and go, but they should be able to sort themselves out here. But their tyres will be getting very cold, their brakes will be getting very cold, and when you're braking, Martin, from 200 plus miles an hour into the first chicane at 50 miles an hour, you don't want them too cold, do you?
Right, with a lot of trust in them. 16 cars out on track of the 20 at the moment. Ease it in. Just crank it, so we'll load the contact pad and then get the car straight for best traction. Ease it through Curva Grande. Turbocharged F1 car. Now it's just somewhere to hang on to, ready for this very important braking zone. Hop, skip and a jump, don't get too deep into the gravel. First Lesmo then, really inviting. Look at that, the camber helps you in, you carry so much speed to it, it's so satisfying to drive. A little bit flatter through Lesmo 2, that was nice there for the Aston Martin. We go down to Ascari, underneath the old banked circuit. Rise the crest there, and again, try to stay off these curves in the middle, otherwise they'll put the car sideways, then ease it through the exit. Picking up the slipstream from the car ahead of us, which is George Russell, and into Alboreto, formerly known as Parabolica. Turning nice and early, you've got plenty of room to breathe on the outside. Who's going to get this done? We could see some surprises.
Well, Perez goes 7th fastest, Sebastian Vettel goes 8th fastest, and then Lance Stroll just behind him 9th fastest. Everyone got to the line in time before the checkered flag to start their final flying lap. Kubica can't improve to get out of the bottom 5, but Ocon does. Pushes Alonso into the danger zone as Giovinazzi goes 5th fastest. He's finding pace at his home track here. Tsunoda pushes Alonso into the bottom 5, only 14th fastest, and Alonso manages to get himself out. George Russell is out of qualifying in Q1, but Lando Norris goes 3rd fastest overall. Mick Schumacher puts himself ahead of Robert Kubica and ahead of his teammate Nikita Mazepin, who he has out qualified in every single race when he's been on the track in qualifying this season. But the big surprise, George Russell, after getting that contract to go to Mercedes for next season, can't make his usual habit of getting out of Q1. He and Nicholas Latifi, the two Williams cars, join the two Hasses and Robert Kubica. Oh dear, and that was very close for Nicholas Latifi, with some wildlife running across the track.
Yeah, I think the story there right at the end for me was Alonso just sneaked in, didn't he? But
P16.
Copy that. Yeah, no worries. I think we've got a good car for tomorrow, so
No drama.
Sonoda's had a lap time deleted. George Russell makes it through, ladies and gentlemen, to Q2 because Yuki Tsunoda had a lap time deleted for exceeding track limits. So it's as you were, George. You're through to Q2.
Back to the pits quickly. we're still in this.
Oh, it ain't over until it's over, and even when it is over, it ain't over. Lewis Hamilton, fastest in that session by a 10th from his teammate Valtteri Bottas. Lando Norris, third fastest. Max Verstappen, nearly half a second behind the two Mercedes. And we've lost Mazepin, Kubica, Schumacher, Latifi, and eventually Tsunoda.
Yuki, we got track limit on 11. Unfortunately, we have P17.
What? Really?
Tiny little T-tray rear wings, aren't they, on the Red Bull? They look even more tiny when they're open with the drag reduction system. Some DRSs work better than others on various cars, and it also depends on which wing configuration you're running as well. But this should be Verstappen's good, very good chance, as long as this Alpine of Alonso doesn't get in his way into the final corner, a chance to clear a lap that'll get him through.
Well, we'll see. With the track temperature continuing to fall a little bit, is this ideal conditions out there at the moment? 1:21.1 for Sergio Perez. His teammate goes 4/10 faster, and then Valtteri Bottas, making his way around the parabolica, could yet make a dent in Max Verstappen's time here. Here comes Valtteri Bottas, and it's a 1:20.0, 7/10 faster than Max Verstappen. That will be raising a lot of eyebrows on the Red Bull pit wall, especially as Lewis Hamilton then follows his teammate over the line and into the 1:19s.
Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear. Red Bull don't appear to have the pace, do they? And that, as you say, 3/4 of a second is massive, and we know that that's not about slipstreaming. Verstappen had a lovely slipstream there.
Yeah. There's a theory that with the Red Bull car being of a lower rake than the Mercedes car being of a lower rake than the Red Bull car, it's going to be less draggy and therefore way better suited to the likes of Monza. But that is a huge difference between the two championship rivals, with Bottas, Norris, Ricciardo and Gasly now in between them.
I'm just going to say that, funny enough, that the big problem, if Red Bull have got this kind of pace, or lack of, then they might find, McLaren are going incredibly well, and Gasly's been just flying over the last few weeks and months anyway, but, it might be they're not exactly lining up behind the Mercedes either. Red Bull needs some pace here.
Perez, I need a tow, he says. We didn't get a tow because he was towing his teammate, and his teammate could probably do with 2 tows, as it were, or 10 tows.
And he's absolutely right, of course, because at the moment, he's the man at risk in P10, and probably thinks he can't go much faster without the slipstream of somebody else.
Exactly. The good news for Red Bull, if they do need some good news, is that this is qualifying for the sprint. The sprints will determine the grid for Sunday's Grand Prix. So they get a second bite of the apple, as it were, to try and improve their position.
Yeah, but this is a fundamental pace problem, isn't it, at the moment?
Yeah, I still have the problem, but now it's not consistent anymore. It's in the middle of the corners. I've got no engine braking, big engine braking, and it's not very consistent.
Charles Leclerc still 9th fastest, still through to Q3 on this evidence, but with Ocon, Vettel and his teammate Carlos Sainz to maybe put in quicker runs, he could find himself out of the top 10 come the last reckoning. Started 13th on the grid last year for the Italian Grand Prix, did Charles Leclerc, as Ferrari suffered something of a horror here in qualifying. And then the race, both cars outside the top 10 for the race for the first time since 1984, and then their first double DNF here since 1995. It was an Italian Grand Prix to forget for the Scuderia, that is for sure. So up there at the moment, in 5th place, Pierre Gasly. He's only missed Q3, twice in the last 16 races. Barcelona and Silverstone were the 2 races. He He's up there again in P5. Daniel Ricciardo, a lot closer to his teammate Lando Norris than we've seen maybe at previous races this season, starting to find his mojo a little bit. Hamilton locking out the front row at the moment for Mercedes on this evidence for the sprint to come. This is Fernando Alonso. That's painful. And then he rejoins the track with the Red Bull, kind of thinking, oh, what's going on here? You meant to rejoin the track, Martin, as safely as possible.
Yeah, I mean, he threw the anchors out way too late there, didn't he, Alonso? That was never going to slow down on Monaco Sunday. He had such a lovely slipstream as well. And down, and then just got a little bit too hot into the braking zone.
Ted, news from you.
And then abandoned his lap, as you can see, I think, on your screen now. Came straight into the pits. I was surprised to see him right next to me here in the pit lane. But Sebastian Vettel and Carlos Sainz needing something special here. And what does special mean? Well, it means at least 0.2 of a second gained around this track. That's asking quite a lot. But if they can gain 0.2 of a second, that should put them around safety area. Lance Stroll doing well. P8 for him, a 1:21.0. For comparison, his teammate Sebastian Vettel 1:21.2. There's that 0.2.
Well, it's not a lot to find, but in Formula One terms, it's a huge amount to find. There's 6 minutes to go of this Q2 session. And Alonso, Russell, Sainz, Vettel and Ocon, the 5 drivers that are missing out at the moment. Sebastian Vettel's gap, though, to Sergio Perez, that 8/100ths, which is slightly easier to find. But he needs a bit of inspiration, a bit of James Bond inspiration, the 007 branding featuring on the side of the Aston Martin cars for this week, ahead of the film's release, No Time to Die, which is coming out soon, eventually. I don't know about you, Martin, but I can't wait to see the new Bond film.
Another Bond movie. We're watching all the old ones, they keep turning up, don't they?
Oh, yeah. Spy Lovely, still the best.
But it's scary that you see these. I've never seen that bit before. You must have seen it before. Just forget.
And there's the old banking. What would James Bond have made? Can't they recreate a car chase? A James Bond car chase around the old banking of Monza. Now that I would certainly like to see. Take down some of the fences that stop you driving around the full part of the old banking here. We're playing a waiting game, waiting for those to come out again for their final flying laps.
So Valtteri Bottas has taken a lot of new power unit ICE, internal combustion engine, for example. He is going to take some penalties for the race because it's more than the permitted 3. So Bottas, that's a card they played at Mercedes-Benz for Valtteri Bottas to introduce what, despite obviously sort of effectively missing a race in Spa, there's still not enough mileage available to them. And also the Mercedes engine, I think, tends to degrade with mileage as well in terms of its absolute performance. And in fact, Toto alluded to that earlier on today when we were talking to him. So, yeah, that's an interesting one.
It is. So it's a new internal combustion engine, new turbocharging, new MGU-H and MGU-K, and a new exhaust system as well. So he will start at the back of the grid for Sunday's race. Here's the interesting part for this. Start at the back of the grid for Sunday's race, but if he qualifies second or even first in qualifying tonight, he'll start the sprint race right at the front, because you take your penalties for new engine components after the grid has been formed, and the grid is only formed after the end of sprint qualifying. So in terms of denying Verstappen the chance to score 1, 2 or 3 points, Bottas, even with those new engine components, can still play quite a key role.
Yeah, that's the philosophy. Try and grab some sprint points and then get through. Ted, what can you tell us?
Right, this nonsense in the pit lane of doing this Mexican standoff has just had its first incident. Aston Martin has made contact with a Mercedes and almost taken out an Alpine mechanic.
So would that have been Lewis Hamilton? Lewis Hamilton is in between the two Aston Martins.
Yes, I could only see the rear of the Mercedes, so I couldn't see the helmet or the number. We'll get a replay, but this kind of, let's see who...
2 seconds, Ted.
I'm unbelievable what they are doing here. Unbelievable.
Verstappen's had enough and he's just overtaken 4 cars.
Yeah, I'm entirely with you on that, Max. Let's have a replay and we'll see how close it all was. I think it was tyre to tyre from the Aston onto the Mercedes. I don't think there was any damage. There's not any bits of carbon fibre left lying in the pit lane, but that was too close for the car.
So nobody wants to be the one at the front punching a hole in the air.
It's crazy. Everyone's backing up.
And that's why they all wait to try and come out. So there's Lewis Hamilton making his way down the pit lane, Max Verstappen behind him, and there is the Aston Martin of Sebastian Vettel that is pretty much released into the path of Hamilton's Mercedes, and the mechanic stopping Lance Stroll joining that particular incident by placing himself between Stroll's Aston Martin and the fast lane of the pit lane. Wow. And yeah, there's an Alpine mechanic that was waiting to let Esteban Ocon out. Well, if they're not going to behave, someone is going to make them behave and introduce some rules and regulations about this.
It's hard though, isn't it? That one's hard. I mean, when you get out on racetrack, go at representative speed, and that clearly that 1 minute 43 they must stay under between the two safety car lines, so not including the pit lane then effectively, is not enough, because that still gives them half a minute of slack around the lap when they can do this kind of thing. But nobody wants to be out front. They're all looking for the slip through. But how you legislate who can leave their garage when is a whole new story. That's quite a difficult one to do, I think.
Yeah. But something needs to be done, because what happened, they all waited until the first car came out, and then there's the stampede onto the track, and they're all trying to get out at exactly the same time. So, out on track, Valtteri Bottas and Antonio Giovinazzi, Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen have started their flying laps. They should all get to the line in time. Lando Norris will be the last to reach the line before the checkered flag, and they should all be okay. Giovinazzi's got a bit of pace here in Monza this evening, so it'll be interesting to see where this lap can put him. Currently P7 in Q2.
Yeah, he's looking well there. Very, very well. The only thing I think they can do in the pit is have a light system on the pit that allows the drivers out to bump into each other. Then that's up to them, isn't it? But what you can't have is one of the mechanics out in the pit lane. No, they need a traffic light system to release the car.
Two Mercedes out on used tyres for this particular flying lap, saving a couple of sets, new sets for when they need them come Q3. They all got to the line in time. Now these lap times will count. Bottas crosses the line, can't improve on his overall best so far. Giovinazzi stays 7th. Perez only 8th though. He's in trouble here. Max Verstappen goes 3rd fastest, a little bit closer to the two Mercedes. Fernando Alonso is down in 10th at the moment. Esteban Ocon will be next to cross the line, and he's out on qualifying. Sebastian Vettel might just be through though, goes 9th fastest, pushes his teammate Lance Stroll now down into the bottom 5, because Sainz has gone into the top 8. Crossing the line now, Stroll doesn't make it through to Q3, where we have seen him on regular occurrences here at Monza in the past. We're on board with George Russell as Charles Leclerc goes into Q3. Russell can't improve, stays 15th sadly for him. Lando Norris is setting a blistering pace at the moment and goes ahead of Max Verstappen to take 3rd fastest overall. But the two Aston Martins in the end both find themselves out of qualifying, along with Alonso, Ocon and Russell.
Yep, both Aston Martins, both Alpines. George, who kind of got through by default, really, didn't he, with Tsunoda's penalty. But Perez then just sneaks through, and he was the man having to give teammate Verstappen another slipstream, but still Norris is faster. McLaren looking very strong here in Monza.
And Charles Leclerc, who might be having struggles with his car and the way it's performing, does make it through to Q3, which didn't happen last year. Both Ferraris into the top 10 in qualifying. Lance Stroll's always made it to Q3 here, didn't today. He and Vettel, Alonso and Ocon and Russell all out after Q2.
In turn 6, maybe I took it a little bit too easy for the traffic. Not much, but maybe a couple of hundreds.
was deleted for track limits. How are you feeling?
Yeah, just disappointed, but yeah, it is what it is, and track limit is the I think same route.
Yuki Tsunoda, his lap time deleted, exceeding track limits out of Parabolica. It meant that George Russell got through. Let's hear from Yuki.
Yuki, I know you must be disappointed with that 'cause right at the last minute your lap was deleted for track limits. How are you feeling?
Yeah, just disappointed, but yeah, it is what it is, and track limit is I think same rules for everyone. So just it's my fault that I went too much outside. So yeah.
What do you think you can do tomorrow to kind of recover from that?
It's going to be difficult because it's going to be the strength, I think. So it's hard to overtake, but I try my best.
And obviously it's a sprint, so how important do you think it is to kind of work your way up, or are you just going to play it conservative tomorrow?
I can't hear you.
Are you going to just play it conservative tomorrow? Is it important to kind of fight your way through during the sprint?
Yeah, I mean, start is the most, I think, opportunity to overtake other cars. So, yeah, try to overtake as much as possible tomorrow and prepare for the race.
Well, that was clear-cut. He was banged to rights there. They all know about track limits. However, I suppose what is more unclear is what are they going to do to sort out these queues? And then there were about 8, I thought, unsafe releases in the pit lane there, David.
Yeah, you can see there's, I think that's Vettel, isn't it, just coming out and stopping Lewis. And then, of course, out comes, after this one, we've got Max comes out because he sees they've been held up. And he comes out and sneaks in there. This is actually on board Max quick bar, yeah. And then that bit Alonso came out and saw the opportunity, and then we get more further down the pits, actually, of very close releases under a time pressure. They're keen to get out and get there behind their teammate and go down and get a tow.
The thing is, Johnny, that this isn't the first year we've seen this. We see this every year. So there'd be a minimum lap time. What do you do to sort it out? Because just going back to what we saw in Q1 and the likes of Lando weaving through traffic as he approached Parabolica at huge speed, Pierre Gasly at the Scari coming in with a Ferrari on the line there. It's incredibly dangerous being this is such a quick track.
Yeah, but it's how you try and get the order to get out of the garage, then be sort of all in a nice sort of orderly line. I know the problem is everybody wants to get out there as quick as they possibly can, but bring in a rule to say, okay, if you're at the front of the pit garages, you can go out first, one at a time, then it's all nice. But that is something that can't work.
But I think Simon's highlighted the real issue is what we saw with Lando having to keep his foot through the floor and pass the car on the left and the car on the right. Now that is highly dangerous. You don't know what those guys are going to do. So if they suddenly change direction, like we saw with Mazepin in Zandvoort at the last minute, they didn't see him or whatever, you have got a massive crash on your hands. So,
but sometimes with drivers, Dave, I don't understand why, go into sort of that last corner, you go on the right-hand side. Why there is then someone on the left-hand side as well making this chicane
the drivers should be very, very aware of it themselves.
With a very big speed differential, and that's the other issue is, of course, they're trying to bring the tyres in and not cook them on the outlap, so they're going ridiculously slowly. So this was the issue with qualifying, which is why they got rid of qualifying tyres in the first place, is because you had cars on track going very, very slowly, and cars flat shaft. So you've got a setup for a very nasty, potentially very nasty incident.
Just quickly, Max and Red Bull got their hands full here.
They've got them very full, but they just need to get a toe. And there's someone like Lando Norris who's been able to do that so far.
Well, that rather sums up Red Bull's predicament at the moment, and I don't disagree with Johnny at all. They need to find a toe. The championship leader and the team fighting Mercedes in the Constructors' Championship, Martin, here at Monza this evening don't seem to have an answer to Mercedes' pace, which is probably giving them, you know, a ball patch with a scratch in their head, and us if we think about it too hard.
Yeah, and once again, look, Perez sent out, who just got through in 10th place. Perez sent out to give Verstappen a slipstream, and they need it. They need to do that. They need to play the big championship game now. Of that, there's no doubt. If Perez could also get a slipstream himself of Gasly in the sister AlphaTauri team, that would be quite helpful as well. So then they were 10th. So therefore, traffic's less of an issue, slipstreaming less of an opportunity.
Absolutely. McLaren could be the big thorn in Red Bull's side here, other than the pace that Mercedes are showing, and McLaren really continuing where they left off here in Q3 at Monza last year. They were 3rd and 6th, weren't they, for last year's Italian Grand Prix, and showing pace again in 2021. So we've got Giovinazzi, who, like London buses, had to wait a long time for his next Q3 appearance, and the next 2 have come in consecutive races. He's only reached Q3 3 times in his career. He's there for Alfa Romeo. He'll have and Sergio Perez out there along with Max Verstappen. Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz getting 2 Ferraris into Q3 here this year, which didn't happen 12 months ago. Gasly, perennial top 6 qualifier, is there for AlphaTauri, then Ricciardo and Norris, and then Bottas and Hamilton. And to repeat the news that Martin brought you about 10 minutes ago, Valtteri Bottas, complete power unit change, so he'll start Sunday's race at the back of the grid, but he'll start Saturday's sprint wherever he finishes in the next 10 minutes. Ted, down to you.
Got a few more details on that. First of all, it was only published by the FIA, I believe, at 29 minutes past the hour, Crofty.
Yeah. It's really good of them to let people know
great.
a bit earlier.
Thanks,
on that
FIA.
Yeah,
so
thanks.
Mercedes would have told them at the top of the hour. So we brought it to you. Martin brought it to you as soon as it dropped in our inboxes. But it's not over from Bottas's crashes in Imola or his crash in Hungary. It is tactical. They do need a 4th one, say Mercedes, and it's tactical because it takes, as I think you've already alluded to, guys, it takes potentially points away from Max Verstappen in the sprint race tomorrow. Bottas will be, you might have thought, well, there's no point Bottas doing the sprint race because he'll be starting from the back of the grid on Sunday, but there is, because it means that Bottas can take points away, can finish higher than Max Verstappen in the sprint race tomorrow and take potentially points away from Verstappen. Nice tactical thinking there.
Cheers, Ted.
Thanks, Tedos, for that. Yeah, Lewis is a long way behind Valtteri here in terms of the slipstream. As you can see, he's nowhere near in the picture of Bottas giving it everything and is fastest man through the middle sector so far.
But fastest through the first sector, the 2 McLarens, Ricciardo and Norris, matching each other. Hamilton might not need a slipstream from his teammate because he has got rapid pace. Verstappen matching Hamilton through the middle sector and matching Hamilton through the first sector as well. So Bottas to cross the line, and his time is a 1:20.3. That is the provisional target for everyone to aim at. Hamilton will be next to cross the line as he comes out of the parabolic, and once again he's into the 1:19s. Gasly goes 3rd fastest. We're watching now for Verstappen and for the 2 McLarens. Verstappen crosses the line. He's in the 1:19s as well, and a lot closer to Lewis Hamilton than he's managed to get in the first 2 sessions. Carlos Sainz goes 5th fastest, and then Charles Leclerc replaces him. So it's 5th and 6th for Ferrari. Ricciardo goes 3rd fastest for McLaren. Lando Norris then goes just ahead of his teammate by 3/10. But Verstappen has managed to put in a lap that's good enough for 2nd quickest.
Because Gasly was ahead of them. Gasly was towing Perez, was towing Verstappen. So a little Honda train there. Bottas a little bit wild on the exit of the 2nd chicane. And dipping the tyres in the gravel, just about got away with that one. So that could be a critical lap for Max Verstappen and his championship chances on this given weekend. Then McLaren then lining up on the second row at the moment. Bottas, we know, will take that engine penalty, but this is about the sprint right now. Bottas can go faster than that, but he was a long way ahead of Hamilton. Yeah. So Hamilton actually was slightly slower than in Q2.
A 1:19.936 for Hamilton in Q2, a 1:19.949 for that time in Q1. So Perez got the advantage of Gasly pulling him along, and Verstappen got the advantage because Perez was going that much faster. And you alluded to it, that they could do with Gasly helping them out a little bit.
Yeah, it was a Honda train, and they weren't that far behind Hamilton either for good measure. So, yeah, they're critical there, but there's a repechage to go yet.
Yeah, so we're only halfway through this Q3 session, but Red Bull at the moment find themselves in nosebleed territory with Max Verstappen because they haven't been in the top four in a dry qualifying at Monza in this turbo hybrid era. 2017, Verstappen and Ricciardo in the wets were second and third in qualifying, and then took engine penalties and had to start from the back of the field. That was the year that Lance Stroll became the youngest ever front row sitter in Formula One. This weekend, Max Verstappen could bag his 25th front row start if he could finish in the top two in the sprint tomorrow.
So if Lando Norris can get in the sweet spot somewhere, Daniel Ricciardo for that matter, the fanboys really get in the sweet spot of a slipstream. He could put in quite the shock of the event so far, particularly Lando Norris.
So are you suggesting we might get the latest Monza standoff, whereby Lando Norris is like, I don't want to put myself in. Is there any chance I can just sandwich myself in between Gasly and a couple of Red Bulls? That might be quite a nice place to go, because the Red Bulls will come out when Gasly goes out, and Norris, who's a garage nearer the pit lane exit, might think, well, I can jump into this queue.
Yeah, his tyre blankets are off and he's ready to go. A little tweak the front wing we saw going in there on Lando Norris, on the McLaren. I think it was Lando Norris, wasn't we looking at? But yeah, just fine-tuning. They are allowed to change the front wing angle, and also tyre pressures, as long as they're within the minimum, which actually is very high here, 24 psi front, 21.5 psi rear, which is high for an F1 car.
Well, the last person running PSI that high, I think, was Fred Flintstone, and it's like rocks down there. Ted, to you.
Very good question. Cheers. His tyres were rocks there. Oh, I see, that's what you're saying. Rock hard, that's it. Charles Leclerc, according to Ferrari, they say that all the data they can see on their side, that Charles Leclerc's car and his, whatever it was, the engine braking, engine UK, whatever we'll find out later, the problem was, has been sorted out on their side. So I guess the lap times would support that. So Charles Leclerc looks to be going okay at the moment. And Lando Norris, you're absolutely right. He just looks perfect for P3, doesn't he? He was P3 in Q1, he's P3 in Q2, and now he's looking good for P3 potentially on this last run. We'll see what happens. They're all holding station once again. It's the Mexican standoff. No one wants to go first. All the strategists are looking out, seeing who's going to be first to go. They never learn, do they, Crofty? They never learn.
Yeah, but if they get it right, the rewards can be right there. But it's getting it right. It's such a fine line. Do you know, if I was Antonio Giovinazzi, I'd just get out there now and see who wants to follow me.
Yeah, but then you might as well stay in the garage, to be honest. I mean, if they send Lewis out now, for example, just by himself, I'll stay in the garage.
Yeah.
Because you need to be in. You need to be getting the slipstream from these long straights.
Mercedes say the difference in lap times between getting a tow and not getting a tow is worth 0.7 seconds. So 0.7 of a second if you can get the tow and you can get it right. Tyre blankets come off and Verstappen comes out behind his teammate Sergio Perez. Where's Pierre Gasly? Is he making his way out? No, he's not. They don't need the Alpha Towering in the way this time. The Red Bulls are just going to get on with it. So maybe sacrificing Sergio Perez a bit here as Valtteri Bottas comes out ahead of his teammate Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, and it's Hamilton's turn this weekend to have the choice of when to go out and when to debrief in the meeting. Apparently he gets first choice on that this weekend, and it flip-flops around, and well, you'd want it to be Monza, wouldn't you, really?
Yeah.
To say the least, but he needs to get that gap absolutely right to his teammate, and we have not seen Norris yet, have we? Norris can hook onto the back of the Mercedes. Ricardo's out there. Norris has just left the pits now. Norris will get, as he gets, he ought to be able to pick up the most superb slipstream from the two Mercedes.
So Ted keeps referring to the Mexican standoff, and the one who blinked first was the man from Guadalajara. It's Sergio Perez, there he is right at the front of this very expensive train of cars. Then comes his teammate Max Verstappen, Pierre Gasly, after doing a little bit of work that benefited Red Bull in the first repechage, now gets the benefit of a tow from Max Verstappen as a way of thank you. Then comes Carlos Sainz on the track, and Antonio Giovinazzi behind him, then Charles Leclerc. Daniel Ricciardo comes next, then Bottas and Hamilton. Lando Norris will be the last man over the line. We're not going for pole position. We are going to try and find a winner from Q3 that will start the sprint right at the front.
Yeah, so a Honda train again then. But this time Gasly should get the benefit. They need to be careful they don't tow Gasly past the pair of them. Well, he's already in front of Perez.
So here we go then. Final exchanges of this Q3 session. Lewis Hamilton won qualifying on the Friday evening at Silverstone. The first weekend we had the sprint, and he is out there at the moment ahead of Max Verstappen, his championship rival. Let's watch Verstappen into the Redofulo chicane, the first corner here. Get on the power as soon as you can, get good traction out of there, and you're benefiting all the way through the Curva Grande.
Max is quite close to Perez in terms of he needs to be careful he doesn't get any dirty in when he gets towards the end of the and you must not brake too late and wreck the lap. And he takes that little skip off the curb. This time kept it within bounds. Lesmo 1, lean in early. Great feeling through there. And now take all the curve on the outside. Wow, really pushing it to the limits there. Well, we look at the second sector. It wasn't a great first sector for Verstappen, was it?
Or Perez, or Sainz, or Gasly. Was for Bottas, 26.6. He's up on a lot of them. Gasly's done a really good middle sector. Giovinazzi at 26.8 was a good first sector. Hamilton at 26.7. Norris and Ricciardo matching that as well.
And in mid-sector for Verstappen, not that good. They are towing Gasly along nicely. So it's not been a great lap for Max Verstappen so far.
Who wants to try and improve on his time so far and is not looking good to do that. Perez only 8th fastest. Verstappen crosses the line, can't improve, so who can behind him? Gasly goes 5th fastest. Valtteri Bottas has got purple and probably purple as well as he comes towards the line. Sainz goes 7th fastest. Here comes Valtteri Bottas now. Giovinazzi has crossed the line, only 10th fastest. Leclerc in 8th, and we've got Bottas, Hamilton and Norris to come, with Daniel Ricciardo going 3rd fastest overall. He can't quite get past Max Verstappen. Bottas can though. He leads qualifying here in Monza on this Friday evening. Hamilton, has he got enough to try and beat it? No! Bottas wins out in qualifying. Hamilton is alongside him on the front row for the sprint. Norris goes 4th fastest, and that will be relief to Max Verstappen, who was only good enough for 3rd on the track tonight.
Yeah, Verstappen in that first lap was absolutely critical for him, and could not beat it at the end. He did a 20.267, best part of 3/10 slower. That would have put him only 6th on the grid had he not have got the first lap in. So, yeah, all Mercedes front row.
And that's pole position, sir.
Oh, yes! Boom! Thanks.
Bravo.
Well, in the week that he's told officially he won't be a Mercedes driver next season and he'll be going off to Alfa Romeo, Valtteri Bottas experiences the lows and then the highs of winning qualifying before the lows will come his way on Sunday with his engine penalties to take him to the back of the grid. But for now, he's done the job that Mercedes put that new engine in the back to go and do, and that's to get right up at the front to try and deny Max Verstappen as many points as they can from the sprint on Saturday.
Cracking lap, and he was the one towing Lewis Hamilton around, wasn't he? So well done, Valtteri. That was well deserved.
Quickest in Q3 for only the second time this year. Portugal was the other time, and Mercedes won 2 in Q3 for the third time after Portugal and Hungary. And I dare say Hamilton won't be too unhappy to be alongside his teammate on the front row, but he'll be watching out for this man, Max Verstappen, on the run down to turn 1. We've got not one but 2 runs down to the first chicane this weekend. I can't wait for that.
I can't help but think Max's best chance today was third, and he got it. Just look at that. Fighting Norris and Ricciardo, mere hundredths slower.
Well, he's never been lower than third in Q3 this season, has Max Verstappen. But in the end, 200ths quicker than Norris, and nearly 300ths quicker than Daniel Ricciardo. That really was very, very tight in the end. And the second Friday evening qualifying of the season, it's Mercedes 1-2, it's Max Verstappen third, and it's points down to third that will award in the sprints before we form the grid for Sunday's Grand Prix sometime tomorrow afternoon. Don't miss out on the sprint. I think it's going to be action-packed. Given what we've just seen here, there's a lot of cars, very competitive, very close to each other.
Getting into the top 10. That particular match, Valtteri Bottas, it's a funny old business, isn't it? It really is a funny old business.
He will go, Valtteri Bottas, from the front tomorrow to the back on Sunday. What a difference a day makes.
Yeah, P45 in the week, P1 today.
And the chance to go and lead Alfa Romeo, that's one of your best. I like that. We'll hear from the top 3 in a few moments. A relationship that Lewis Hamilton has certainly paid tribute to in the last week or so as teammates. Valtteri driving for himself or for his teammate tomorrow?